On today's show, the highest of highs and the lowest of lows. The San Diego Padres losing the second game of this Cubs series on a walk-off home run to one Sir Michael Busch, breaking down not just the Padres offense not coming through against Shoto Imanaga, who's apparently Randy Johnson incarnate, as well as Jurickson Profar's enormous clutchness and huge home run in this game, and whether or not the Padres bullpen needs some work, particularly in the eighth inning. Let's get to it.
You are Locked On Padres, your daily San Diego Padres podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of Locked On Padres podcast, which is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day for Wednesday, May 8th. As always, I'm your host with sometimes occasionally, but certainly not always the most, Javier Reyes. You might be familiar with my baseball-related work over at justbaseball.com, where I write about not just the Padres, but general baseball stuff too. And if you want more general baseball silliness and fun stuff like ranking Scott Boras quotes, you can check out my new show, Baseball versus the World. This show, of course, is available wherever you get your podcasts, including on the old YouTube, where you can also just say hi. You can leave comments. You can make fun of my face, whatever fit I'm rocking. I don't care. Do whatever you want. So go check that out, guys. Today's episode is brought to you by eBay Motors. From brakes to exhaust kits and beyond, eBay Motors have over 122 million parts to keep your ride or die alive. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to bring home that big win. Keep it alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only, exclusions apply. eBay guarantee fit only, available to U.S. customers. Man, that one stung, ladies and gentlemen. Last night's game, the Padres lose by a score of 3-2. But I will say, it was a good game. Like, am I like a traitor for saying that? Like, it was a good game in the sense that you got some really good pitching performances, especially out of the Cubs, with Shoto Imanaga having one of the better starts possibly of the season. Like, seriously. So while, yes, Randy Vasquez wasn't like incredible, he actually pitched okay, and bottom line, just didn't give up a lot of runs. So shouts to him, and we're going to break down all of that. But yes, it ended on a sour note, and I understand that it's really tempting. Heck, I'm not going to lie to y'all, I'm going to let you under the hood, you know what I mean? Was I tempted to send out a Padres meme that was like very negative because I thought it might get engagement? Yeah, maybe just a little bit, but I didn't, because all in all, the Padres have been playing better ball lately. And I just don't think that would have been fair. They still have the opportunity to win this series. It is a grueling schedule, which is why I think losing a game like this really stinks. And it really stinks that Imanaga, who has, heading into this game, I believe had a sub-1 ERA, if I'm not mistaken. He had a sub-1 ERA of 0.78 across his, like, 6 starts that he's made for the Cubs so far. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8 starts for the Cubs so far. And it really stinks that the Padres had some regression come their way for their pitchers, but then it did not happen for the Chicago Cubs. And one of the things about the Cubs, which is why this game is a failure, is that the Cubs have a really bad bullpen, like one of the worst in baseball right now. Like you saw yesterday when the Padres, had Campusano come in and everybody, once the bullpen gets in, that's when the team tends to fall apart. Like they have a serious problem there. So for you to make it easy on them, and I'm talking like easy, situations in this game occur that we're going to talk about where like you could have had an opportunity, but the Padres unfortunately did not come through. But I do want to really emphasize that we should not use this one game as like a telltale, like there they are, there's the Padres we know, I knew it was all fake. Like they have really genuinely been playing some better ball lately, so I don't want to get on them too much. I think that would be really unfair. I really do. I think so. But first, let's start from the beginning, guys. Let's talk about Randy Vasquez, who has been absolutely phenomenal for this team. I'm sorry, not Randy Vasquez. Let's talk about Shoto Imanaga really quickly of the Cubs, having genuinely one of the best starts of the year. So I want to bring that up because, yes, the Padres didn't hit well. Don't get me wrong. But Imanaga was on some otherworldly stuff yesterday. So I just want to throw that out. And I think that he does deserve props and is why I don't think I want to kill the Padres offense for what they did. He generated 20 whiffs last night, 15 on his splitter, his ace pitch, 24 swings on 15 whiffs. Was a little bit annoying when like Manny Machado would be up and he would throw the splitter like, it was like 3 times in a row and Manny's just swinging at each one. It's like, okay, come on, man. But at the same time, like Imanaga has been incredible. He goes 7 innings in this game, gives up 7 hits, that amounts to 2 earned runs, but thanks to Profar, who we'll talk about a little bit later. But then that gets 8 strikeouts. So this was an Imanaga game. And while it is tempting to blame the bullpen, I think, for the loss last night, which it makes sense. I mean, that's why they lost, in all honesty. The Padres offense was really inconsistent in this game. And like I mentioned with the Manny at bat, you had Bogarts getting fooled. You had Tatis actually was one of the only players that had like a pretty good game, 2 for 3 last night with a stolen base and a walk. So like Tatis had a good game, but all in all, really rough. 3 strikeouts from Manny. He was just like in an absolute spin zone. So that really was unfortunate. And there was just a lot of little mistakes that I think are worth talking about. I'll get to them in just a second. Want to quickly talk about Randy Vasquez, who I almost got to mix up with Imanaga just now. I'm very tired, folks. What can I say? I'm very tired for some reason. Randy Vasquez was all right. Well, he didn't have the same like kind of whiff numbers that you immediately makes your eyes pop out of your eyeball sockets. He was okay. He did generate some, which I really appreciated, across a bunch of different pitches, from his 4-seam fastball to his sinker. So like he was mixing up the repertoire a bit, which I like to see. I think that his stuff has a little bit higher potential as of right now than some other people on this team. So like Matt Waldron, who I think that his knuckleball, while it can be a thing to behold when it's on, and I do think he deserves one more shot. I really do. I just don't think he's been that bad this year for the team. That thing, when it does get hit and when it's not on, you saw what happened. In Sunday's, or was it Sunday's or Saturday's game? I believe Sunday's game, when they just didn't have to swing at anything. I talked about Tucker Barnhart, how he literally just he was ready to take a pitch and it was still outside for ball 4, all that stuff. But for me, I think Vasquez has a little bit more stuff, and you saw a little bit of that tonight. Generating some whiffs, limiting the hard contact to a degree, and I just thought he looked pretty good. The extension looked good. The breaks looked good on it, especially. I was impressed with a couple pitches he threw with his cutter. But all in all, Randy Vasquez was okay. He only goes 4 and a third in this one, but that's because he threw 83 pitches, 1 earned run on 5 hits, no walks, 6 Ks, and the 1 earned run was a Cody Bellinger home run. Just want to throw it out there that like the only thing, he basically just made 1 mistake in this game, which stinks. Don't get me wrong. He absolutely crushed it. It was the second hardest hit ball of the game next to Michael Busch's walk-off home run. It happens every now and then, right? Like this stuff happens, but I think Randy Vasquez was really solid, and considering that he's in there right now to replace Joe Musgrove for the time being, really had a nice start. Like this guy might not be up for very long, so that's how you should view it. Don't view it as this is a pitcher, what does he have? What is he going to have going forward? View it as hopefully he could just be good for a couple starts, because that's how much we're probably going to lose Musgrove for. So really impressed with him. And also Adrian Morejon was actually really okay in this game. Did walk 3 across 1 2/3 though, but he did strike out 2, didn't give up a hit. I love the fire that he had, and don't get me wrong, he has had some games where he's like got into some trouble. He had that stretch against the Reds when he just completely had his ERA get blown up, but I really do think this stuff has been good. And we're going to talk a little bit more about the bullpen stuff, but to me, I love seeing the fire in him. He's always had the velo. That's never been an issue with him, but as a starter, it just didn't work. Hey, we've seen guys convert from starters to relievers and be genuinely amazing before. In fact, we had one of those not too long ago in Drew Pomeranz, who was a starter for... Was he a starter for the Padres? I think he was a starter for the Padres. I'm wondering, did he change to reliever... Did he change the reliever coming to us? No, I think it was started with the Padres, then he went to the Red Sox, became a reliever there, free agent, then they signed him to... Okay, I think that's what it was. But that's a good example of a guy who found like a second life elsewhere. So hopes for Adrian Morejon. But of course, that wasn't it, ladies and gentlemen. We got to get back into the rest of the game because there was a lot of stuff. And also, shouts to Cody Bellinger, a 13 pitch at bat. And then the home run ends up happening later, so maybe he just got super used to Randy Vasquez because he got to see him throw 13 pitches, so that was unfortunate, but that was like wild to watch. They both looked annoyed. Is it just me? Did you guys see that at bat? They both looked so annoyed. Like, they both looked so annoyed off the foul balls and stuff, you know what I mean? Like, they looked so pissed. They were like, oh my God, why are we doing this? But, ladies and gentlemen, that, of course, is not it. I got a few more notes that I want to talk about, especially with one Sir, Jurickson Profar, and then, of course, the Padres bullpen blowing it kind of for the second day in a row, and whether or not that's something to read into. But before we get into that, I just want to talk to you folks about the good folks over at eBay Motors, ladies and gentlemen. I just talked about them at the top of the show, and I talked about them for good reason. because they are here for you. You want everything for your vehicle. You need the good oil. You need the drive. You need the energy. You need the wheel. You need the steering wheel, and you need the good lights and everything. Well, bottom line is, hear me out. eBay Motors has you covered with anything, whether it comes to superchargers, roof racks, LED headlights, exhaust kits, and I'm reading from there, they got plenty of other stuff, and let me tell you, cars, there's plenty of different things you need, and eBay Motors, what I like about them is, if you're like a little schmuck like me who doesn't really know anything about cars, well, with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. With over 122 million parts, that sounds really daunting. Well, with Guaranteed Fit, they kind of tell you like if that's going to work for your vehicle. So don't worry about like making a mistake like I would. So go check that out, guys. With eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. Oh, I wish I came up with that one, but it's actually what they sent us. But still, it is a bar, and it is very good. With all the parts you need at the prices you want. Check it out, guys. Keep it alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. And just like that, ladies and gentlemen, we are back here on the Locked On Padres podcast. Remember, free and available on all platforms. Your team every day. You know what it is by now. Let's talk about a little bit more things. Firstly, some miscues, I think, in this game. The error in the sixth inning by the Cubs, and I'm going to pull that up right now. Not pull it up, but I'm pulling up the stat sheet just to make sure I got this right. Really, really unfortunate that the Padres basically luck out with some errors that allow them to get on base. And in this case, we had Manny Machado with Tatis and Jay Cronenworth on base. Look, Machado has been, I've talked about this, like I'm optimistic about him, but there has been a vibe that's like, this dude might just be okay. Like, not even okay, like a really solid, good player for a ways to come. But I do have some worries that like the MVP version of him is gone, which is why, by the way, I said last year that I didn't want to like rush to extend him immediately. I wanted to see how the season played out, but that's for another time. Machado pop up on the first pitch. And by the way, this is something that, and as I don't cover other teams, I can't tell what other teams are doing. I should probably look up first pitch swing percentage, to be honest with you right now, but I don't have it in front of me over at FanGraphs. It takes me a second to get to it. But I think for me, it just feels like there's a lot of times when the Padres have teams on the ropes or they're scared and then they swing at the first pitch. And it's like, come on, like let the guy throw a little bit. Imanaga has been awesome all series long. I wouldn't want to jump on him immediately there. Now, Manny Machado knows more about hitting than I ever will, obviously. But for me, it just rarely seems to work totally for the Padres. And I imagine that there's some exceptions. But that was really unfortunate. Not only does he swing on the first pitch, but it's a pop-up that the catcher and the first baseman actually run into each other, giving Machado a second chance, but then he strikes out, and then this won't surprise you, Xander Bogaerts strikes out. Just not great there. Not great there to see you get an extra chance, and it doesn't happen. Azokar also makes a mistake in this game, trying to turn an errant throw, I believe. When did that happen? I forgot to write down when it happened. I believe it was the top of the seventh. He singles to shallow left center, and then the ball goes, it was a poorly thrown ball that gets past the first baseman, but then Azokar very foolishly tries to turn into a double, and he's like only halfway there by the time they get the ball back. So I don't know if I didn't see the replay. I don't know if that might have been a first base coach thing where they told him to go when it bounced off the backstop and it unfortunately rebounded right to the first baseman. Maybe that's just a little bit unlucky, but you can't get thrown out there, and that was really unfortunate. Ends the inning, ends any vibes that the Padres might have had. But there was some heroics in this game. And it comes from one Sir Jurickson Profar, who once again is freaking me out. And I really want to emphasize that while we did have the Machado moment with the pop-up and then just kind of being wasted there, it needs to be mentioned that the Padres in high leverage situations this year have almost completely flipped when it comes to runners in scoring position. And I think that that's really important. So don't get super, super mad about the fact that they didn't necessarily show up in this game, because it's okay. I don't have their numbers fully. I could try and pull that up right now, but they've been so much better as a team this year in high leverage, and this is what I was talking about, right? This is what I've been talking about all off season, which is that it was going to flip. Just based on how baseball usually goes, it actually would have been impressive if the Padres were as poor in the clutch last year and translate that and bring it over to this year. Because yes, they lost Juan Soto, but still a lot of the high caliber, high talented players are in this lineup. If they lost everybody and then they hit poorly with runners in scoring position again, that's different because you lost your best players. But that was my thing. And you're seeing that flipped this year. And it's flipped on like steroids when it comes to one sir, the man, the king, the legend. That is, of course, Jurickson Profar, one of the best batters in the entire sport in high leverage situations. But I do want to shout out the Padres in general this year. In high leverage situations, they're hitting .299, which is 4th in Major League Baseball. And if you want to go by WRC+, they are 1st in baseball with a 135 WRC+. So while yes, the Machado things are frustrating, and yes, it is a little bit bloated by one Sir Jurickson Profar who hits a home run in this game. Should Craig Counsell have taken Imanaga out of the game? I don't know. The Padres actually have Kyle Higashioka. They pinch hit for him. Luis Arraez comes in, gets a single, showcasing a little bit what we're talking about, right? That Luis Arraez is the type of batter that can just be that spark plug, that can come in and get you that single, and it just feels like he's going to come up and get you what you need. And that's why he's going to be a big plus for this team. And I like that they pinch hit for Higashioka there. I thought that was smart. And then Profar comes in, hits the home run. For the record, it was a little bit lucky, right? Like, it was considered a home run in 2 out of 30 ballparks. It had an expected batting average of .550, so that was good. But the home run part was quite lucky. Even though he did crush it, it was hit at 103.5 or 103.4 miles per hour exit velocity. He had a good launch angle on it. It was a good hit. It was probably going to be a good hit, but the home run was a little bit lucky, and it is really wild. And maybe that explains why later on in the game, if I'm not mistaken, Ian Happ makes a catch against Jose Azocar before that. I'm trying to find the one that says, wow, Baseball Savant saying that there was a catch that Ian Happ made in this game that robbed potentially Jose Azocar of extra bases. It's saying here on Baseball Savant that it had an expected batting average of .210, which just feels wrong. Like, am I crazy, guys, or did Ian Happ genuinely rob him, or am I crazy? I guess I'm crazy. Maybe I just didn't see the play. But regardless, we really do need to talk about Profar more and more. This guy has been so ridiculous in high leverage situations this year. In fact, I think he's one of the best players in all of baseball in high leverage situations. At least in terms of guys who have had more than 3 plate appearances in that position. He's been fantastic. And I think that while Profar is surely going to calm down at some point, I don't know what it is, but he's having just one of the best seasons that the Padres have literally had of any player since I've been hosting this show. Even better than Tatis's almost MVP year. That's how good he's been this year. 177 WRC plus heading into this game. Now 179 in high leverage situations this year. He's hitting .571 and he's got a 207 with runners in scoring position. And in WRC plus terms in high leverage, he is hitting, I probably should have got this before him, my bad, guys, 326 WRC plus. That's going to calm down at some point, but you got to enjoy it for now. And hopefully this is something that will at least continue to a smaller degree. And at the very minimum, he's probably going to be what he was 2 years ago for the Padres, which is just a solid role player, even if he has a huge cratering. And I'm just telling you, the walks, the way he's hitting fastballs, I don't know if it's going to crater entirely. So shouts to Jurickson Profar. He's been amazing. I posted on Twitter the Scooby-Doo mask, ripping it off, and it's actually Juan Soto beneath him. Maybe that's what happened. Someone actually tweeted at me saying, I'm convinced that this is Halloween or whatever. That he's just... Let me see if I can find it, actually. David Lampard at Gen Zod's Army. Shouts to you, sir. You might be excited because that new Superman movie teaser that came out. I have a good authority that Profar is getting a Soto jersey and wearing it as his Halloween costume this year. That's very funny. But yeah, really good stuff. Of course, the Padres end up falling apart at the end of this game. But hey, it's not like they didn't have no chance. This was in the 8th inning. Top of the 8th? No, top of the 9th inning. The Padres do have a chance. Jackson Merrill comes up to the plate, puts together a good at-bat, but unfortunately is unable to drive Ha-Seong Kim or Luis Campusano home, especially after a rare Luis Campusano walk, so that was unfortunate, but alas, it happens sometimes. But, oh man, I mean, it sounds like I don't care that they lost last night, but I'm just so amazed with what we're getting from Profar that it's hard for me to be upset, if that makes sense. I'm just kind of in a position where I'm expecting Tatis to go nuclear at some point. I think Jake Cronenworth is fully legit. I think Ha-Seong Kim will get a little bit better. I think Manny Machado will get a little bit better. And then you've got guys like Merrill, and you've got guys like Arise, and frankly, you got guys like Donovan Solano, who, well, he doesn't have a great game. He does go 1 for 4. You have someone like that you could just throw in off the bench. Like, there's just so much more depth with this team. And not to mention with Bogarts, well, I think that the Anthony Rendon, Carl Crawford, Jose Abreu allegations are being proven more and more each day. You have to at least hope that, okay, he can't be this bad, right? So, there's a lot of hope. I think that the offense has been fantastic this year. It's just been the pitching. It's been inconsistent pitching. But it hasn't actually really been the bullpen too much. And we got to talk about that for sure, because that's what ends up happening. Michael Busch walking off the game on like the second pitch that Enyel De Los Santos throws. Really, really unfortunate. Bloating his ERA again to now a 3.0. So that's rough. So we're going to talk about that more in just a second, guys. But before we do that, and before we answer your questions about the Padres bullpen, folks, let me just talk to you really quickly about our good friends over at PrizePicks. We love PrizePicks. You know why? Because everybody else does. Duh. It is the #1 fantasy app in the United States of America. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. And that's no shade to my international listeners, of course. But in terms of the stats, it is #1 in America. 3 million members and counting. It's the easiest and most exciting way to get in on the action. All you have to do is pick more or less on 2 or more player stats and watch those winnings roll in. You've got NBA playoffs. You've got NHL playoffs. You've got the WNBA starting up soon. You've got baseball, duh, absolutely. And is there NASCAR going on? I don't know. I wonder, PrizePicks should have done something maybe for the Met Gala. I don't know. Maybe they should have done something for like over-under really dumb things that we pretend to care about. You know what I mean? But anyway, guys, when it comes to this, there's also some fun celebrity plays. There's all these different offers that come in. They've got community, their promos tab that introduces you to all of them. And you can be part of a bunch of different things. PrizePicks, they've got some people like Sugar Sean O'Malley and Meek Mill. You can play alongside them. Really, really cool stuff. You could turn $10 into $100 with just a few easy taps. And also, lastly, love that they have injury insurance. Let's say, Ha-Seong Kim gets taken out early and you had the over on total bases or something like that. Don't worry. If it's 2 or less plate appearances, it won't count as a loss for you. So that's really, really cool. Shout out to PrizePicks for that. Download the app and use code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. Just because you're listening to this podcast, I'm going to help you out there. LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy with PrizePicks. And just like that, we are back here on the Locked On Padres podcast, guys. The waning moments. Let's talk bullpen, because that's what ends up blowing the game for the Padres in this one. Yuki Matsui comes in, only lasts 2/3, gives up an earned run, doesn't get any strikeouts. I've talked about Matsui before. I've talked about how I like that he's been getting a little bit more strikeouts lately. He got 2 against Cincinnati, then 2 against Cincinnati again, and then won the other game against the Cubs. I talked about on yesterday's episode that I had thought that Yuki Matsui was due to get hit. I just didn't like that for a while he'd been giving up some hard contact and that he had been walking more batters than striking him out. I just don't remember the last time that's ever amounted to something good. And don't get me wrong, I do like the guy. I think that he can be good. I love that his split finger, guys just aren't hitting it, right? But it is true that he can get hit pretty hard sometimes. And that's what you kind of saw happen here. What I do like, though, is that he's able to generate ground balls and that he's able to whiff on that splitter especially. His splitter was this is an extremely lazy comparison because he just pitched last night, but like Imanaga, like that's his ace pitch and he gets a lot of whiffs off of it. This year, I'm just going to remind people, 136 batting average against the split finger, and then his slider, opponents are hitting 91. The problem is that they are killing his fastball, which I think he has to locate better and do a little bit better. Just complete the at-bats. He's getting used to things. I think sometimes he's a little bit afraid to challenge hitters. He's afraid of throwing too many walks, and that's what happens. It reminds me of Chris Paddock a little bit, where one of the things that happened with Chris Paddock, and it's totally different pitchers. Paddock's thing was a changeup that hitters were like, they figured out to just wait on his fastball because the fastball was too straight. So hopefully as time goes on, teams aren't figuring out Matsui. But what's really the most unfortunate is that I said on yesterday's podcast that I thought he was due, and then he did. He gave up a big home run to Christopher Morel I think it was Christopher Morel. And, that bloated his ERA to 3.3. So my hope was, okay, cool, you got it out of your system. But unfortunately, he did not, giving up a run. And then Enyel de los Santos, who's also been very good and also pitched yesterday and gave up a run, gives up one immediately here. Really, really unfortunate. Really, really unfortunate. I just want to throw it out there that someone actually tweeted at me. Let me pull you up, sir. LFGSD at GoKingsGo87 said, we need an 8th inning guy. No one seems consistent. I strongly disagree with that, and that feels like recency bias, and that's no offense to you, sir, but for me, Enyel de los Santos, heading into the Cubs last night, had a 1.98 ERA. Yuki Matsui had a sub-3 ERA. They had actually been really, really solid, and that's one of the reasons we were praising AJ Preller is you saved on not extending Josh Hader or anything like that. You saved by exchanging Scott Barlow for Santos in the first place. You saved some money to spread it out for other things for the team, and it had been working. And I think that while Suarez is certainly a guarantee, I think the Padres haven't settled on an 8th inning guy, and I think that there's a difference between that versus have one. Never mind the fact that you still have Wandy Peralta, who is a little bit weird. He's the only one that I'm like, we sure about this guy? You know what I mean? Wandy Peralta's the only one, but when it comes to the rest of the bullpen, I just talked about Adrian Morejon. That guy is someone who can contribute. Jeremiah Estrada, while he was a little bit shaky in Monday's game, he's a rookie, high leverage. I think he was a little bit razzled. It happens. It's fine. That's why you came in and had the behemoth, the Chad, who has nothing. Apparently his 4 pitches are fastball, faster fastball, fastest fastball, and God tier fastball. Like, that's all Robert Suarez throws. But with Jeremiah Estrada, that's another guy who can contribute. So I just named 4 dudes that I think could be legitimately like really good relief pitchers for this team. And that's not to mention that if something happens down the line, I'm sure that they can find some. I just don't think that the Padres bullpen has been nearly bad enough for me to start talking about this. In high leverage situations this year, by the way, they're the 14th best ERA in baseball. Far and away the best has been the Yankees, who have, by the way, this is kind of just a crazy stat, 1.54 ERA, the Yankees in high leverage. The second lowest is the Cubs, which I had not realized, at 3.86. That's really weird. I had no idea that the Cubs bullpen was good in high leverage situations, or at least according to FanGraphs. That's very, very weird. But nonetheless, that's where we are. They are 14th, and I know that might go against what I was saying about the Cubs bullpen in general. But even still, the Padres bullpen has still been pretty solid. Is it a little bit shaky in high leverage? Of course. But I just think like that might be getting inflated by the fact that they got hit today and then last night on Monday. So, and then not to mention, it might have been inflated because of that one game against the Rockies when everybody came in and just stunk, and then they blew the game 9-4, right? So that's my thing. I don't think the Padres are in desperate need of one. If it happens along the lines of the season, I just think that getting a solid reliever, not even an all-star closer, not even multiple relievers, that's something this team can easily address down the line. And in fact, with Preller getting a lot of money from the Marlins, I imagine that he's thinking about that too. So I would not worry about it. Padres bullpen has still, all in all, been pretty solid this year. I would keep an eye on it though. That much I do think is worth pointing out, because last year, if anyone remembers, the Padres bullpen for like the first 2 or so months of the season, in terms of general ERA, was very, very good. Like, seriously, like really, really good. I don't want to like go through like the exact stats here, but it turned out that Padres bullpen was only good in like ultimately low leverage situations, with the exception of Josh Hader, which is why I want to point out that, the Padres, while yes, they, could get a better bullpen, and while, hold on, I'm phrasing that really incorrectly. My apologies. I got distracted. While yes, the Padres bullpen is, we've seen before, we saw last year that the bullpen was a little bit fraudulent. And then you had games like the series against the Giants last year. You might remember when they lost 2 straight walk-offs. Luis Garcia fell apart, Nabil Crismatt fell apart. Even some other guys like Robert Suarez, when he eventually came back, wasn't very good. So you've seen this before. So it's something to keep an eye on. But in general, yeah, the Padres pitching has been a little bit of a mess. Starting pitching being the biggest thing, but bullpen needs to be a little bit more consistent. Although it's hard for me to blame them on a 1-run game, that you had chances to win, that you didn't play super well against, that you let Imanaga go that deep when you knew that the key to getting to this Cubs team is in their bullpen and getting to them early when, the game's not out of reach. So that's really unfortunate. But nonetheless, the Padres bullpen now, its ERA is 4.05, which is the 18th best in baseball. But again, that changed so dramatically. I'm pretty sure a few days ago it was up there. So I'm curious to see how that transpires, but it's worth keeping an eye on because we just saw last year. Now it's a totally new bullpen, bunch of different faces, but we did see last year that this Padres bullpen basically had Josh Hader, and then everyone else was awesome when you were down by 8, or really, or really awesome when you were up by 8, right? Like that's kind of what happened last year. So it is worth looking into, but I don't think that there's like, this is a giant pressing need. I still need more of a sample size, especially since these things can flip so easily with bullpen. So give it a little bit more time. I still like Santos. I still think Matsui's got a lot of potential. And also, more importantly, they have reinforcements like your Adrian Morejon, like your Jeremiah Estrada, who have been really good of late. So give it some time. But just not great, man. It happens. It happens every now and then. It's okay. It's okay, folks. Sometimes you lose, and it's okay. It's okay. It is a little bit frustrating that the Padres are just trying to get above 500. The Cubs are 22-15, while the Padres are 19-20. But as I said on yesterday's episode, I want to give it a little bit more time before looking into records because that just can flip too quickly. Frustrating team. Don't get me wrong, frustrating team. But remember what I've been saying, which is that this team has shown so many things. Cronenworth, Merrill, Tatis, Profar. What else? Estrada, Adrian Morejon, Dylan Cease, Robert Suarez. What else we got? Acquiring Luis Arraez, all that stuff. There are so many tangible things, runners in scoring position, that they are already better at than last year. Give the faith. They might go on a winning streak, and if they do, I won't tell you I told you so, but I probably will at the same time. But that basically about does it for today's really weird episode where I couldn't speak properly for the whole time of the Locked On Padres podcast. Guys, be a reminder to, again, I can't speak today. I don't know what's going on. I'm tired. I got like 2 hours of sleep last night. That's probably why. On tomorrow's episode, we're going to be recapping the afternoon game. That episode will be out still early Thursday, even though it is a, afternoon game because I'm recording this right now, that you're listening as by the time you get up. So look forward to that. And then on Thursday, I don't know yet, maybe a Locked On Dodgers crossover. Might have to record that on Thursday for Friday because we got a big series coming up. But hopefully the Padres can get it rolling because, like I said, you have this Cubs series, then you've got the Dodgers, then you've got a Rockies series, and then you've got the Braves and Reds and Yankees. So it's a wild month, to put it lightly. So no matter what, though, guys, keep the faith. Feel free to follow me on Twitter at Javipeno, Javiipno. Follow me not just on Twitter, but also on the YouTube, and you can send some comments. You can DM me, whatever, any questions you may have, and I will be sure to answer them. But until next time, stay safe, and of course, stay faithful. My Friar Faithful homies, take care.